I'm the river, I'm the rain, the lonesome whistle of a train. I'm the amber waves of grain. I'm the highway, I'm the farm, the fertile fields and boulevards, the hand that rests over your heart. Oh, I'm the echo of the bell that's ringing. Oh, I'm the freedom in the song we're singing. I'm the seed that's in the dust. I'm the prayer in God we trust. A place to dream for all of us. I'm America. Dance, the open window to a chance, the place where courage takes a stand. All the colors that you see, the lights from 30,000 feet. Yeah, I'm the roar of victory. Oh, I'm the echo of the bell that's ringing. Oh, I'm the freedom in the song we're singing. I'm the seed that's in the dust. I'm the prayer in God we trust. Place to dream for all of us. I'm America. I'm America. I'm the fathers, I'm the sons. I'm the footprints in the mud. I'm a shelter washed in blood. Oh, 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 oh. I'm the seed that's in the dust. I'm the prayer in God we trust. Place to dream for all of us. I'm America. I'm America. I'm America. I'm America.
Welcome to Homefront Sitrep. I hope you're in for a great show today, because I'm just a veteran talking about what's on my mind and maybe yours.
You can find Homefront Sitrep on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. You can also check out Homefront Sitrep's YouTube channel.
Buckle up, the show is starting. Welcome, everybody, to a Sunday edition of Homefront Sitrep. How is everybody doing? Mr. Travis, how are you, sir?
I'm savage, David.
Savage.
Savage beast. Like an orca swimming through the water looking for that baby seal to munch on.
Nice.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that TikTok video where the seal's jumping on that fisherman's boat because the orca's circling around.
Right, right.
That's you, right?
I'm going to get my seal one way or the other, David.
Roger that. No, man, I tell you, it's been a long week. I'm glad the weekend is here. I finally went back to work on Monday.
Yeah.
So I worked all last week and had some On Wednesday, I had like 4 doctor's appointments at the friggin' VA. So I was at the Zorn Avenue Hospital all day. My first appointment was at 11. Of course, I'm a Marine. I got there at 10 a.m. for an 11 o'clock appointment because I was early. And man, I spent all day there. My buddy James Thornton, who is a Somalia veteran from Operation Gothic Serpent, otherwise known as Black Hawk Dam. He just had a knee surgery, so I actually got to hang out with him while he was in the hospital there for a little while in between appointments. So got to cheer him up a little bit while I was there. But no, man, the weekend's been great. I'm ready for a great episode tonight. Glad that Mr. Travis Partington from Oscar Mike Radio was able to join us. So if you haven't checked out Oscar Mike Radio, you need to go follow him on all social media platforms. He has some great guests on his show as well. But tonight we got a great guest coming up, man. I tell you, when Miss Lauren reached out to me, at first I didn't know the story behind what she wanted to talk about. And then I got to looking into it, and I was like, I remember watching this movie either in 93 when it came out or in 94. I can't remember, but I remember the movie. And I was like, dude, this is a heck of a story because her mom, when Lauren was 7 years old, she was kidnapped by her dad and taken back to Jordan, where her dad was from. The U.S. government said they couldn't help. The State Department couldn't help. The government couldn't help. The Jordanian government wouldn't help. So Lauren's mom had some friends. You might know their daughter, Miranda Lambert. Her parents helped Lauren's mom, Cathy, uh, find some veterans and go over to Jordan and rescue Lauren from her dad and bring her back to the United States. But we'll get Miss Lauren onto that here in just 1 second. As you can see, we added a new name across the bottom, Reese Across America Radio. I know Travis is on Reese Across America Radio. Homefront Sitrep will be starting October 3rd. We at 11 p.m. we will be one of the new shows added to Reese Across America Radio. Super excited about that. So
That's just a great, if I may, Dave, that's just a great platform for, veteran content creators. And, Jeff Pierce has done a lot to give us an extended voice, and you're going to love the experience, man. They've been nothing but great to me. And it's just, I'm so happy for you. I'm giddy right now.
dude, I'm stoked, because I reached out to, I don't think I reached out to Jeff, but I think I went to their Reese Across America Facebook page and reached out and said, hey, my name's David Willis, Marine Corps veteran, blah, blah, blah. And Jeff reached out to me and we had a long conversation via Zoom. And he's like, dude, I love what you guys are doing. I mean, he watches my shows and stuff like that. He said, I love the content that you're putting out. He gave me a few suggestions, like instead of doing 2-hour shows, try to minimize it to an hour. But the good thing about being at the 11 o'clock hour Eastern, I can go 90 minutes and they'll be able to catch up in the morning hours. So that kind of works out in my favor. So I can do either 60 minutes or 90 minutes and just got to keep it PG somewhat. So I'm super excited.
All right.
What was you going to say?
No, nothing, man. Nothing. It is exciting. Because they don't he'll work with anybody, but he likes people who really put their heart and soul into the work. And, for him to do that means that, you're for real, dude.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, he seems like really legit. He's very passionate about what he's doing. And I'm excited to be on Reese Across America Radio. We did a partnership with them. So if you buy a wreath, once we get the link and everything, once you buy a wreath, $5 of each wreath will go to, I think first year we're going to do Dogs Helping Heroes, which is a local nonprofit here in Kentucky that gives service dogs to veterans. Right now, they currently don't have a waiting list. So if you're a veteran and you're looking for a service dog, reach out to Dogs Helping Heroes, go to their website. And like I said, they have no waiting list. They use shelter dogs, rescue dogs. and they train those dogs up and they give them out to veterans in need. So reach out to Dogs Helping Heroes. Without further ado, Mr. Travis, you think we should bring Lauren up on here and let's get it rocking?
Let's do it, man.
Let's do it. Welcome to the show, Miss Lauren.
Thank you for having me. I am quite honored to be on y'all's show today.
Well, thank you. And thank you for reaching out. I'm super excited to have you on here and let you tell your story, because you got a story of resilience. And what I mean by that is what you went through at a very young age to where you are now, and what you're doing for not just veterans, but anybody that comes on the Redeem podcast. You know, you're telling your whole story and how you survived, and now you're encouraging people and helping people. So that's awesome. So if you don't mind, do me a little favor, give us a little bit of background of who you are, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and I want to tell everybody listening, every veteran listening, I'm going to try not to get emotional, but I'm a very emotional person. Thank you, because veterans changed my life. And that's why I am a mom today, and I am a wife, and I have a career, and I have the freedoms I have, and I'm not in Jordan in an arranged marriage, because veterans took a risk and said yes to risking their lives to save mine. So thank you very much. Um, I am a mom of two boys. I work full time as a physical therapist. I'm a wife. And in the last 6 months, I just really felt like God was putting on my heart to get out there and share my story, like you said, to encourage people in whatever situation they may find themselves in.
That's awesome.
Lots to unpack there. I do later, not now, because you are the star of the show. I have a PT question for you later, and it's relevant. But I just when David said, "Hey, I have Lauren coming on," I'm like, I think I've heard that name before. And then I'm like, "Oh wow, if that's who I think it is, this is amazing." And as much as you thank those veterans for their service and thank us for his service, I think I speak on behalf of David. We want to thank you for being a great American. What a great success story that you took the life you got given and made this gift of it. So thank you.
Oh, thanks. I never thought about it that way. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely are an inspiration. Just like Travis said, I mean, you took the life that you were given and you turned it around, and now you're giving back. I mean, that right there says volumes. So I do have a question. So the veterans that saved you. So let's go into how. All right, let's go back to the beginning. You were
Sure.
7 years old. Your
Yeah.
father and your mom got a divorced. You were living with your mom. You just got a brand new house. Your dad, well, actually, let me go back. How true is the movie to the life story?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I was going to say. So, so Hollywood took a little bit, and we were talking. I got to do a reunion, by the way, last weekend, and I was still on a high from that. I went to Fayetteville, North Carolina, to see these guys. Amazing. But we talked about some of the things that Hollywood put in there. My parents got divorced when I was 6 weeks old.
Ooh,
My father, when he found out that my mom was pregnant, he told my mom that he needed to go to Jordan because his dad was sick, and she didn't think anything of it. And she's like, sure, go. And those weeks turned into months that he was gone.
mm,
And she, at that point, thought she's going to have a baby by herself and that she had been abandoned. And she was in Texas. She didn't have any family. And like you mentioned, Miranda Lambert, way before Miranda Lambert was in the picture, or I was in the picture, my mom's best friends were her parents, Rick and Beverly. And so that's the only people she had. So I came early. I was about 8 weeks early, probably because of all the, stress of being left. When my dad came back from Jordan, he was dressed in the traditional Jordanian clothing, and he was acting different, looking different. And he told my mom he went to Jordan to make a home for us. He had found a job, he had found a home. Well, my mom freaked out and was like, I never agreed to go to Jordan. We never talked about this. I don't want to go to Jordan. So by the time I was 6 weeks old, she was already in the process of filing for divorce. So there she is, first time mom in her 20s, with single with a brand new baby. And she was trying to figure out how to pay for diapers and formula. So my mom had full custody of me, and she gave visitation rights to my dad. So my childhood started out being that typical divorced kid going between two houses. But my parents actually got along great after that whole deal. Anytime my dad wanted to see me, he could. There was no worries about that. He was a great dad, very loving and kind. Anytime my mom needed help, they worked well together. But everything changed when I turned 7. And later, we found out, I think Beverly actually found out, that the laws in Jordan, when a child is 7, all rights go to the father. Well, my
Mm.
birthday's September. He took me Halloween weekend. So he was planning this the whole time.
Oh man,
Wow.
that
So,
is that's crazy.
yeah, yeah.
So the laws in Jordan, so when the female turns 7, or a kid, any kid
A
turns
kid. Hmm.
7 years old, they go to their dad.
All
Wow.
fathers, at least that was in the 80s, because this happened in 1987. But yes. And so when they
I-
started researching the law,
Is that in the case of a divorce, or is that in the case in general? I mean, parents, married, they love each other, have kids, and then at 7, that father gets all control and decision making over that child's life. Is that what you're saying?
that's correct. Yeah. Women, especially back then, they don't have many rights, as you know. And I learned that when I was in Jordan. I could see a drastic difference from my father being in the United States to my father being there. Even at 7 years old, I was like, oh, this is different. The women go to one area, the men go to the other. It was very different from having to, cover your hair to the way you went to the bathroom. It was a big culture shock for sure.
Yeah, I bet it was. I mean, even now, I think there's still a lot of countries in the Middle East that women are treated as third class citizens. Like
Mhm.
some family pets are treated better than the females in the family. I noticed that when I was overseas, and it just never sit right with me because I grew up in a family, that was it was my mom, two sisters, and my brother. And my brother passed away in '94, so it was just my mom, my two sisters, and myself. And my mom has always been my role model. And then when I joined the Marine Corps, going into these third world countries and seeing how females were treated, I was like, man, it just never sit right with me. And I guess still to this date, it don't sit right with me. So, um,
Mhm.
so you had your reunion with these guys in Fayetteville.
Yes.
Now all the guys that rescued you, are they all living still today?
Yes, and to me, it's just a total God thing. I mean, people ask me, Lauren, why now? And I always say because it's been in the last year, I really felt God calling me to start sharing my story, write a book, which I'm in the process of, which turned into the Redeem podcast, like you shared. And if anyone out there has been through traumatic things, you know what it's like to put it all in a box, literally put it in a box and shove it and move
Mm,
on. And we were living in hiding. We changed our last names. We had to live in hiding. I moved 14 times, but by the time I got to high school, and I'm not military, so we were in this life of just trying to survive for a while. And then coming out of that, you just move on with your life and you don't look back. But boy, am I glad I've looked back because it's amazing to go back and to see the things God's done in my life, to see the healing I've walked through, years of healing, and to see these guys. I got to see Dave Chatelier and Don Feeney and JD Roberts. Um, Dave is 85 now, and JD is almost 80, and Don's getting older. So to see these guys and to tell them thank you and to hear their stories of what happened to their company is called, well, back then it was CTU out of Fayetteville, North Carolina. They, after my rescue, I was the first kid that they had already ever brought back.
mm,
Before we even got back to the United States, we had gotten into Israel. The media, I don't understand how it happens. Media was blowing up. We were all over the news. And in the offices at CTU, the phones were ringing off the wall saying, "Are you CTU? Can you help me get my child back? Did you just bring that little girl home from Jordan?" And after me, I think they rescued like over 10 other kids. So it just opened up a whole new avenue for them. And it's cool for me to hear that.
Yeah, and they didn't just rescue children, but you were the first child to be rescued. So with their company,
Correct.
they did a whole lot of other things,
Yep.
but you were the first child rescue. That's amazing. That's that veteran servant heart, because they got out of the
Mhm.
military, and these guys were spec op guys. They were special operators. So when they got out, they created this company called CTU, and they started doing all kinds of great things. And
Everything.
then,
They did contract work. So Dave, and that was cool for me to hear, right? So Don started it out of his house and then brought on these other guys. And then Dave was like, hey, I've got a sporting goods store. Let's have an office. And so it went over to their office. But they were doing all kind of contract work where they were doing stuff with a Shell oil company, stuff out in Colombia. They were doing security for the Rambo movies, which was a cool connection. And to
yeah,
me, it's a total God thing. When I was kidnapped, Iron Eagle was being, I think Iron Eagle 2 was being filmed in Israel. Don had connections there. And so they used the movie production as a decoy to be able to slip in and out between Israel. Colonel Digley, he got connections, and Colonel Digley's a colonel in Israel. They had like a grand tour of the border because they had that security duty.
mm,
It was just the way everything worked out blew my mind to sit there and listen to how everything was connected.
yeah. That's. I'd love to pick their brains
Oh
too.
man.
And I know. Me and you're going to get connected with. I think you said Dawn earlier. I think is who you said you were that
Hmm.
might be interested in doing the podcast, because I'd love to pick their brain and see what made them decide. Hey, we're going to go help rescue this child. Um,
Hmm.
just because I know me being a Marine Corps veteran, when I got out of the Marine Corps, I like Travis, we lost that sense of camaraderie, we lost that sense of purpose. Well, these guys, they found a sense of purpose by creating a company that did all the security details, and they did this and they did that, and I'm sure they did some stuff that can't be disclosed. I'm pretty
Right.
sure, being contractors and stuff like that. So no, that's super cool. And you mentioned, you moved 14 times before you were in high school. You had to change your whole name. Did you change your first name or just the last name?
Just my last name. Yeah. And
And you,
people are always like, "Were you military?" I'm like, "No, I just have a weird story. How do I tell you that I was kidnapped?" I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah. How do you, when you talking to people in conversation before now, how did you go about telling people your story, or did you not tell?
Usually, oh, I tell people I'm pretty open. Usually it starts because, like I said, I'm a physical therapist, so I get to work with people a lot, and we get a lot of time together. So people are like, "Where are you from? Your eyes sort of look different. You're like have this different look to you." And so I'm like, "Well, my biological father's from Jordan," and then that just sort of opens the story. um, because the way they found me was by my eyes. JD Roberts, and man, that was cool for him to tell me in person last weekend. He's like, I'll never forget your eyes, seeing
Mm,
you sitting on that school bus. We had been looking for you for weeks and could not find you. He said, I was standing on the street and I was like, I'm going to have to pray. I've done everything I can do. I'm going to have to talk to God. And he stood there and was like, God, you got to show me where she is. And he was a couple feet away from Dawn, standing in the streets of Jerash, and a bus pulls up and he turns and looks at me and locks eyes with me, and he just got excited. He's like, and he ran to Dawn and grabbed him by his shoulders and started shaking him. He was like, Dawn, I saw her. He's like, what are you talking about? I saw her on that bus. And he's like, how do you know it's her? It was her eyes. I saw her eyes. And about that time my bus drove off, and so they tried to get in the car and follow the bus, but they were saying that the roads were real crowded and windy with people, and they lost the bus that day. But so yeah, when people ask me those, it just opens up that story.
mm,
So, so,
that's awesome.
so speaking of the story, you get taken to Jordan and you're there. When did it sink in that you're 7, right? You're young.
7.
When did it sink in that, wait a minute, this is not what I thought Dad told me it was going to be, and that to
Yeah.
me is, how'd you deal with that?
Well, so I'll back up. He asked my mom if he could have me an extra night to go trick or treating. It was Halloween, and he had remarried. Had a great relationship with my stepmom, and they had 2 other children. I was the oldest. And so I was excited. My mom's like, yes, Lauren can go trick or treating with you guys. Just make sure she goes to school Monday. So he comes to pick me up, and I've got my, Halloween outfit on, and my little suitcase is all packed up, ready to go to his house. And I get in the car, and my stepmom is not there. My siblings are not there. It's just my dad. And he says, well, hey, I got a surprise for you. And I'm thinking, yeah, we're going to go trick or treating. And he's like, actually, we're going to the airport. We're going on a big trip. And I, typical 7-year-old, I'm like, well, what do you mean? My mom didn't tell me we were going on a trip. She said we were going trick or treating. And he said, well, we wanted it to be a surprise. I'm taking you to Jordan so you can meet your family. And I just started asking more and more questions. But every kid knows when to shut their mouth, right? So he started getting frustrated. The more I asked, the more aggravated he got. And so I just stopped asking all the questions. And that Monday, my mom, and as a single mom, it's very rare to stop your day to go have lunch with your kid at school. Like that just doesn't happen. But for me, that was a total God thing. My mom went that Monday to go have lunch with me. When she got there, all the kids are lining up in the courtyard, ready to go to the lunchroom, and she can't find me. And the teacher comes over and was like, hey, Lauren never came to school today. And she's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, her dad never dropped her off. The last thing she said is, make sure you take Lauren to school. So she's mad. And so she goes over to the payphone because there's no cell phones in 1987 and dials his number, and no one answers. Then calls the restaurant, and they were like, hey, he didn't come to work today. Then the third call from that payphone, she called Alia Airlines, is the main airlines in Amman, called the headquarters in New York City and said, do you have a Lauren and an Ollie on your flight reservations? And the lady said, ma'am, I can't give out that information. And she's like, please, I'm begging you. I think my ex-husband has taken my daughter. And the lady put her on hold and came back and said, yes, ma'am, I do.
Mm,
They are arriving in Amman, Jordan this evening. And that's the moment she knew I was gone. So
mm,
then she paged Rick. Rick Lambert was a Dallas police officer, but had retired. And, well, not retired. He had quit and started a private investigation company called Lambert and Lambert with his wife, and paged him 911. And Rick and Beverly were working together that day, and he grabbed a phone at the clerk's office and said, what's going on? And my mom began to tell him, Ollie's taken Lauren. I don't know what to do.
mm,
And so they all went to my mom's townhouse, and they began. And Rick said, go to Radio Shack, get a recording device, put it on your phone. So every time you call Jordan or you call the State Department or you call the police, we can go back and listen to see what they tell you to do, because, your emotions are all over the place. I have all those cassette tapes. I've listened to all those
wow.
recordings. Man, they are hard to listen to. I
Oh
can
my.
hear my dad's voice. I can hear my mom begging to talk to me, and they're only speaking Arabic. And she's saying, please, anyone speak English? Please let me talk to Lauren. Please let me talk to Ollie. Please bring my baby back. Um, it's crazy to listen to those recordings, but that's what happened. So it was days. Beverly and Rick and Miranda, they all moved into my mom's townhouse, and they stayed with her day and night, trying to figure out a way to help get me back.
Mm, mm. So is your mom still friends with the Lamberts?
Yeah, they went on a reunion with us. We stayed in an Airbnb, and thank God for Beverly, because I work full time and I'm doing the podcast and I'm trying to like organize a reunion. And Beverly, because they just came out with a cookbook last year for Miranda, and Beverly's like, I will do the cooking. I will do all the hosting. So she made her famous meatloaf, and she did all the planning, and I got to just show up, which was so great.
Oh, that's super neat. That is super
It was
neat.
awesome. Yeah, it was really cool.
So tell us a little bit about the Redeem podcast.
So I started the Redeem podcast to share my story to start with, but it's really a place for other people to share their testimony of what God's done in their life, no matter what. If it's going through a divorce, some kind of trauma, going through sickness or loss, there's all kinds of hard stuff we go through, and it's just to show what has God done in your life in the middle of the hard stuff, and how have you overcome it. That way, we can encourage one another.
That's awesome. So tell us some of your guests that you've had on the show.
I've had several different people. I've had people that have dealt with addiction with alcohol and drugs. I've had people that have overcome cancer. There was a gentleman that had three different types of cancer and overcame cancer. A lady that lost her sister at 18 was killed. Was that the gas station was being burglarized and
Mm.
she was in the crossfire. And she talks about how she went to the prison and forgave the man that killed her sister.
Oh,
Um, people go through crazy hard stuff, and I mean, like my story, like I really dealt with the wounds of a father for years, trying to figure out how do I forgive my father. He took me from everything. He took me from my mom, from my country, my language, my culture. When I was there, it was the first time I'd been to Jordan, and I didn't know how to speak the language. I didn't know the customs. Going to the mosque, covering my hair, it was just a total foreign thing for me. And so I had to learn how to forgive my dad because when he took me, he took our relationship too and all that trust.
right. So it's been 30 something years.
Hmm.
Have you talked to your dad since then, or?
I have. I started with it started with writing letters back and forth when I was younger, when we were still living in hiding. When I got older, there wasn't that fear anymore. He did come back to the United States, and there was a warrant, and so he was stopped I think in New York at an airport, and had to pay a fine and was under probation until I was 18. But in my high school years, I wanted to know who he was. I want to know who is my dad? Who is this person that I've sort of been afraid of for so long? And so I saw him in person. We met, and then I got to see him again. I tried a couple times. In high school, I actually lived in Lindale, which is where Miranda grew up. I lived with them for a year. She has a song called "The House That Built Me."
Hmm.
Way before that song, way before she was a big country singer, I lived in that house with Beverly and Rick and Miranda and her brother. And that was my place of healing because people will ask, did you go through counseling? I'm like, well, my counseling was living there, being in church, being what we call a life group. Life groups are small groups where you usually go in people's homes. It's more intimate that way.
Right.
You pray, you open the Bible, and you start sharing all the hard stuff. And when I started sharing my anger towards God, I'm like, how are you a good God if you let this stuff happen to me? When I started sharing all the bitterness and anger I had towards my father, that's when my healing began. And around those people that are my same age, they cried with me and prayed with me, and that's where my healing began. But I had to start talking through all the hard things. I couldn't just keep it all shoved down inside because it was just making me angry.
Mm. What about your siblings? Have you seen your siblings since all of this went down, and what's your relationship like?
I have. I got to see my siblings in my high school years, and then I got to see a few of them about 10 years ago. And so we connect every once in a while. Over the years, they've asked me questions because, of course, my dad did not tell them what happened. I did, because that upset me. I thought, what in the world do they think of me? All of a sudden, we have this sister that lives somewhere out there, but she has nothing to do with us. And so I asked him, "Did you even tell them what you did? Do they know why I'm not a part of their life?" And the answer was no.
Mm.
So I reached out. I said, "Well, there's a movie made about my life. There's a movie made about what your dad did, not to be mean to him, but I wanted them to have an awareness and an understanding why I wasn't in their life." So when they got older and some of them became parents themselves, they started having questions and they would reach out. And that was a good bonding, healing time, because those questions come when we have our own children.
Definitely.
When did your faith start coming into your life, Lauren, to, you know, cause this change in your perception of what had happened, and how you and your faith caused you and God to grow closer together?
Did you're right, Travis. I knew God from a young age because my mom taught me about Jesus. We would say our prayers at night, and boy, I saw God show up in a big way at 7 when we escaped into Israel. They hijacked that school bus and we were able to get across to safety. How many kids never get to see their parents again? They never come home. And I was only gone 3 months. And so I saw God in my life in a huge way. The men that went over there to rescue me, they are all believers. They all share that faith. And to see God firsthand. But Travis, I was mad at God for letting those things happen to me. So there was been times in my life where it's like, I don't know if I want this kind of a God if you're gonna not protect me to start with. And I had to wrestle. I call that wrestling. It's like God was wrestling with me to show me that He is a good Father, even when bad stuff happens. And that faith grew in my high school years when I was in life group with Beverly being our life group leader, and my mom was singing in the praise team with Rick and Miranda, and it was a journey of healing. And when I got honest with God, because He already knows how you feel. Like we can't hide from Him. And so when I'm like, you know what, God, I'm mad at you. I don't like that I had to have such a messed up childhood. I'd rather not have a movie and have a normal childhood. But when I was honest, that's when that healing came. And I just continue to see God's faithfulness. And when I started this podcast, I never imagined being able to interview the men that rescued me. I never imagined it. And God just keeps opening doors, opening doors. And then to be able to see them and to tell them thank you and to hug them and to share what my life looks like now, man, it's just unbelievable.
You would think 31 years later, the 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 pure joy and excitement to see how you turned out 31 years later. Did they follow your life story after they rescued you, or did or they didn't know how things went afterwards?
They didn't know we were hiding. And JD Roberts, we actually saw him a couple years later, but Don and Dave and Jim, we did not. They didn't know anything until I reached out, and it was really cool. So Rick Lambert is a big hunter, and I called him. I was like, Rick, I want to write my story. And he's like, yeah. And so, I mean, everyone's super supportive. And I said, I'd really like to get in contact with JD. He's like, I can make that happen because JD had won some kind of I don't know if it was for wounded soldiers. It was some kind of organization had given him a hunting vacation,
Hmm.
and Rick had gotten reconnected with JD through that. So he's like, hold on, I think I know someone that knows someone. So within 2 days, my phone rings and it's JD. I was like, oh my gosh, make sure the boys are not talking to me. I'm hiding in my closet. I'm like, I can't believe I'm on the phone with JD. And JD's like, well, do you want Don's number? I'm like, yes. So they just all connected me. I was just crazy. And then I called my mom. I'm like, mother, you're not going to believe who all I talked to today. Um, and then I was like, we got to get together in person. And so that's how that all trickled down.
That's awesome. That's
Mhm.
amazing. Oh man.
Doing the podcast, what's been what does it mean doing the podcast to you when you're talking to someone about their trials and tribulations and how they made it through that? Because you've been through so much. What's it like to hear someone else's story, Lauren?
Travis, I think I can relate to people. Oh, I'm going to get emotional. I've been through hard stuff,
Yeah.
and when you go through hard things, you're more compassionate. The word in Hebrew, compassion, come is with, pathos is pain, come with pain. I started out in a broken life, and because of that, I have compassion for others and empathy. And so I think people feel comfortable talking with me because of that. And so to share those stories and to know you're not alone. So many times when I was a kid, I felt alone. I'd look around at people's families like, I want that perfect family. And this is before Instagram and Facebook. Like, I want my family to look like that. I want that. And we all know that, nothing's perfect. But to walk with other people and to know you're not alone in your hard things. You can be an overcomer. You can be open and vulnerable because when you're open, it makes other people feel comfortable to share and it brings so much healing. And to see how God moves in people's lives, total strangers. You get connected on a podcast, you're in different states, but you still have the same stuff going on. It's just amazing to be able to share people's stories and to have those connections.
So if somebody wanted to get in touch with you via whatever platform, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
I have a website. It's laurenburns.net. That's a great way if people want to email me or be a guest on the podcast. In social media, Lauren Burns Redeemed, or on Instagram, Lauren Burns Redeemed. Those are great ways to find me. I would love to hear people's stories or ways to just encourage others. I like to post scripture verses and things like that because scripture really helps lift me up when I'm in a bad place. And when I don't know how to pray, I just will pray scripture because sometimes I don't know what to say or how to pray.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Like my brother passed away in '94. Now he was 10 years old when he passed.
Mm,
I was 15. So I'm like you as well, where I got mad at God and I was like, how can you take my brother away from me? It's just one of those
hmm
things that, I grew up, my mom was Catholic, but when I was growing up, we went to a Christian church. We didn't go to a Catholic church because my mom and my dad divorced. So the Catholic kind of shunned her, Catholic faith shunned her because she got a divorce. So we were going to a Christian church, and um, my brother passed away, and I went away from God. Like I didn't have anything to do with him. I was like, how can you let my brother die? He was 10 years old. Um, so when I joined the Marine Corps in '97, um, I started going to church while in boot camp. I was going to Roman Catholic church, but it was all denominations, and started going every weekend. And then when I got out of boot camp, I didn't go as regularly because I was deploying all the time. Like I was always gone to either the field or overseas somewhere, and it took me a really long time to fully embrace um, him again. Just for the simple fact that the trials and tribulations that he put me through at a very young age. For one, I didn't have a really good home life when I was growing up because, like I said, it was my mom and four kids, and the people that my mom was dating at the time were not great men. Let's just put it that way. They weren't great men,
hmm
and so I had a real struggle with the man upstairs. And then I got married very early when I was in the Marine Corps to my first wife, and I was gone to California for cold weather training. So we got married October of '99, and I went to California in December of '99 and came back a day early. Well, I caught her in bed with another guy.
Oh gosh.
And, it's just one of those things, and it just snowballed from there. And, uh, you know, then I met my current wife, and we've been together since 2002. We've been together since 2002, and she was born Catholic, raised Catholic her whole life. We got together. I started going through RCIA as an adult because she wanted to get married in a Catholic church, and I wasn't baptized. I was never baptized as a child. So started going through that whole process, and now here I am, 46 years later, total. Um, he's a big part of my life. He's the reason why things go the way they go. Like I put my faith
hmm
in him, and he leads the charge. Now, am I saying I'm a perfect angel? No, because we're all sinners, and we know, and every
Right.
one of us here know we're all sinners. But he still leads the charge, and I put my faith in him, and he's the one that's leading the charge. And I think, um, for reasons unknown to us, he puts us through those trials and tribulations because he knows that we can survive those. And
hmm
sometimes it takes people a little bit longer in life to realize that, but we're all strong because he's leading the charge. That's the way I look at it.
Oh, I agree. I totally agree that 100%. Because people will ask me, do you see um, beauty in the broken areas? And I'm like, yes, absolutely. I wouldn't be the person I am today if I didn't go through all that hard stuff. I don't think I'd have the same faith if I didn't go through all the hard stuff. So, yes, was it hard? Yeah, but I have, I can minister to so many people and share such a great thing. So yeah, there's beauty in that.
Yeah, see, Frank says that God has a path for all of us. Sometimes we have a hard time following it. I would agree with
Hmm.
you 100%, Frank. Frank is an author, Army veteran, author. He wrote the book of Vital Interests. So, um, a great book, great read. Um, so, if somebody wanted to watch the movie, I'm going to throw the title out in chat here. The movie is called Desperate Rescue, the Cathy Mahone Story. So here is the title. You can actually go on YouTube. You can go on YouTube and find it on YouTube and watch it. Now, it is an old movie. It was came out
It's old.
in 93. So it's going to be very grainy because I watched it.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
very grainy, but it has a story of hope. And I think that's why it would resonate with some people. And it's actually a pretty good movie, for 1993.
Maybe
And
there'll be another one. Who knows? An
maybe
updated, better version.
that would be pretty neat to see. Uh, I think if you can make it a little less Hollywood, uh,
Yes.
I think that would be awesome. Because I think in the movie it says that your dad was taking you and your siblings to the Houston Fair.
Fair. Yeah. No.
So yeah, I think it needs to be a little bit more updated. But back then it's Hollywood's Hollywood. So
Well, the other thing is the only person that threw a punch or anything in the whole deal was my mom, and they don't show that in the movie.
hmm,
JD taught my mom prior to going on the mission how, I guess, how to hit someone. So after they got me on the off the bus, um, there was a lady chaperone, and she jumped on my mom's back, and my mom had to let go of me long enough to turn around and punch the lady, and then there's blood coming down her face. So yeah, my mom's proud that she's the one that blew the only punch out of everybody.
that's
Uh, uh-huh.
that is awesome. So, Miss Lauren, is there anything that we missed that you want to touch on?
I don't think so. I thank you guys so much for letting me be on the show. I do want to show. Can I show my Pepsi can because I think
Yes,
that's so
go
cool.
for it.
So Dave Chatelier, and I'll show you a picture. Let me show you. These are old photos. Can you see my book? I made the guys a
Oh
book.
wow.
Yeah, we see
So
it.
Yeah.
this was Dave. The guy. This is JD Roberts, and this is Don Feeney. I'm not sure who this one is in the middle.
Okay.
Um, Dave he's the oldest. They called him Grandpa. He was the oldest one of the group. On our second day of the reunion, he walked into the house and he was like, Lauren, I was driving home after dinner and I kept thinking about you. And I remembered I had a few things I brought back from your rescue mission, which that blew my mind because, again, he was the one that they pulled him over on the side of the road and ripped the car apart looking for us or any evidence of us. And the only thing he had in his car was this Pepsi can. You can see the Jordanian, the Arabic writing.
Yeah.
He's had this for 37 years. He's had this. And he walked in, he said, I want you to have this. And boy, I was blown away. I just can't believe that this came from Jordan on my mission. It's
Mm, that,
amazing.
that is crazy. Yeah, that's something that you can treasure and pass down throughout the generations, as long as it don't get crushed.
Yeah. Well, my boys wanted to say, Mom, can we open it and drink it? And I was like, no, you can't.
That would probably be a very flat Pepsi.
Yeah.
Well, Miss Lauren, it was our pleasure to have you on here tonight. And
Well, I did have a PT question, or if you want me to do this in a different place, Dave, I can just email Lauren.
no,
But
go ahead, shoot it.
all
Shoot
right,
it.
all right. So, fact, 3 years, 4 months ago, I ruptured my quadricep tendon. It
Yeah,
was
that's bad.
that was an old Marine Corps injury that finally decided to come due when the ortho cut me open. He's like a rubber band that went bad. But you'd be proud of me. I did what the ortho told me to do. I did what the VA PT told me to do. I did what my coach told me to do, and the quad is fine. Like, we don't know how to explain this to you. Your PT will appreciate this. My VA PT is like, your range of motion is better now than when. It's hard to believe, but it's the
Did
truth.
you have surgery to repair
Yeah.
it?
Oh yeah. They yeah.
Okay. I was like, that's a huge tear. Okay. So you got all your motion. That's the worst. To try to bend people's knees after having that repair is miserable.
Well, I got familiar. Payne and I got familiar. I call it just sustained discomfort. But here's the question: what my Achilles is bothering me, and my PT got mad at my primary care because I'm like telling him, Doc, my Achilles is acting up. What's going on? You're just getting old, or you're just whatever. And she got really mad because she's like, your Achilles shrank during all this, and now it's trying to lengthen back out. And she told me it could be a year before I'm really right again. And I'm trying to wrap my head. I just want this to be like done, where I can just go for a 2 mile walk and enjoy life. Is my PT right? Is a year within scope for real?
Well, a year is if you have an Achilles repair, it's a year recovery to get back from a surgery. But you have like Achilles tendonitis is what it sounds like.
Yeah. They took this thing
The,
called I call Satan shaver, this metal device.
yeah,
Yeah.
Grafton. Yeah. Yep. No, not necessarily. So yeah, you got to stretch, foam roll, use the lacrosse balls, do heel raises. Can you do heel raises or is it too
I'm doing my
painful?
heel raises. I've got the heavy duty
Doing all the
bands.
things.
I do the wall stretches.
You're
I
doing
am
all the
all.
things.
I'm just
Are you sleeping
thinking.
with a night splint or like a boot, a cowboy boot?
No, I didn't. What?
In Texas, we just wear a boot, but you can get a night splint off of Amazon, and it puts your foot on a stretch, and so that Achilles is stretched all night. It's not fun to sleep in, but that helps.
But when I
I
wake up
tell
in the
people,
morning, the first like 4 hours of my day stinks. I have
I
some other word
know the
for it.
first step out of bed. I know the first step out of bed is painful. I tell people because they don't like to sleep in this thing. So I say just commit to 7 days. Commit to 1 week of sleeping in it, and if it makes a difference, then it's worth keep using it. If you don't see a difference, then stop using it. But it puts you on stretch, so that way your first step out of bed is not so painful.
Yeah, because like literally by 1 o'clock, it used to be like 4 o'clock, but now by like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm right as rain. But man, the first four
Yeah.
hours of my day is just terrible.
So it
Yes.
sounds like
Yep.
you need to buy this boot that she's talking about offline and
I'm
try it out.
all over it. I mean, just
Or
for that
cowboy
alone.
boot.
But I tell you what, I wrote about this, and so I will send you what I wrote there, Lauren. You can tell me what you think.
Send it to me.
Will do. Thank you very much.
I
You're
will
welcome.
on the invite is her email, Travis, so you can get her email from that invite there.
Oh
But Miss
yeah,
Lauren, we thank you for coming on here and sharing your
Yeah.
story with us, and I can't wait to see what you do in the future with your podcast.
Thank you.
And the guests that you're going to have, and hopefully we'll see another movie, a remake of the movie, with updated technology from from 31 years ago. So
And the
thank you.
story from the men, like I told them as I'm writing this book, I'm like, I want all the details from you guys, not from anybody else.
Yeah, I definitely want a copy of the book when you get it.
Okay,
That way I can
make
have
that
it
happen.
back here with all my other books, and I'm going to build another
Okay.
shelf with all the books that I get from authors and stuff that I've had on the show. So I would love. So Frank says he can't find the movie. All right, Frank, hold
Uh-huh.
on.
Well, in the meantime,
YouTube.
I found your podcast. I followed it on Spotify and listened to it
Thank
and,
you.
and throw a like and follow on there,
Thank you.
Lauren.
Yes,
Yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate that so much.
Well, it's just sensationalism sells, other things sell, but you know, there's a place for hope, and we need more of that. So thank you so much.
Mm,
Definitely.
You're
And
welcome.
Travis, you might want to have Lauren on your show as well.
Well, I don't mind. I mean, I'm going to email her. It's going to happen.
There we go.
We can
But
talk
yeah,
about
so
your Achilles too.
there you go.
Yeah,
So we are connected. Me, Travis, and a bunch of us. We are connected. All of our podcasts together. We're going to get you connected with other podcasts to get you on there, just to tell your story. I think you have a story that's worthy, just from the veteran aspect of it, because you had veterans that came and rescued you. I think that's amazing, and I think your story needs to be out there. And like I said, I remember watching the movie back in 93, 94, and I was like, oh, that's so neat and then you reached out to me. So it was definitely meant to be. And I'm excited about it. And I can see what JD, because I'm looking at this picture that's on your website with your bright blue eyes. I can see what he means by your eyes, how he found you. So
Yeah, and for me, man, when people give me a compliment, it's nice, but it's a reminder. Like God used those eyes for JD to find me. Like it's way bigger than a compliment. So
oh yeah,
that's pretty darn cool.
that's awesome. Well, Miss Lauren, you have a great night. Get back to the husband and kiddos, and we will be talking soon.
Thank you so
Okay,
much,
thanks,
Lauren.
guys.
Thank
Thank
Pleasure.
you.
you. Bye.
Bye bye. All right, Mr. Travis, how cool was that, my friend?
Well, that's worth the price of admission for certain, man. I mean, a lot of people would have let that crush them or really put them in a negative arc in their life. And how cool was it that this happened and she's now helped other people like she was helped? I mean, it doesn't any better
Yeah.
than that.
I mean, it's a great story of being resilient, and coming out stronger on the other end. I mean, like you said, most people would let that crush them, and then they would go down this dark rabbit hole and never recover from it. And here she is, she's now, doing a podcast that helps tell people's story. And you and I both know the more we tell our story, the easier it is on us.
Yeah.
And that's why you do a podcast. That's why I do a podcast. And just I'm grateful that she reached out and wanted to share her story on Homefront Sitrep, um, and I'm grateful for you coming on here and joining me and getting to see the story on that side.
Well, I think that's what we talked about before she came on. There's no, like, I can talk to her, you can talk to her, other people can talk to her, get something different out of there, and more lives can get touched. More is definitely more in this case. So it was a real pleasure to do it, and we need to hear these kind of stories, man.
Oh yeah, for sure. Definitely, definitely. Well, my friend, it's that time of night, my friend. I'm gonna let
Happy
you
happy
close.
trails, my dude.
Yeah, definitely. I'll let you say your closing remarks, and then I'll do my closing remarks.
Well, Candace, you missed Godman Free tonight. Sorry about that. You know, this is the whole reason that I think veteran podcasts and content creators need to share, need to do things. It's for experiences like this, and realize that for us veterans, there are ways. Maybe we don't do what these veterans did, but there are ways we can serve after our service. And so if we can keep that purpose and that service-oriented mindset, we'll have purpose the rest of our lives. So I just want to thank David for having me on, and Lauren, what a pleasure getting to talk with you. Thank you.
Yeah, Travis, thanks for coming on and hanging out with us. Candace, you missed a great show, but we'll see you hopefully tomorrow. Tomorrow we have, let's see, who do I have tomorrow? Tomorrow on the 23rd. Oh, we got Mended Sparrow Inc. tomorrow. So go check out their website, Mended Sparrow Inc. It's equine facilitated therapy. Go check them out. Miss Shanez is amazing. We're going to have her on tomorrow. Can't wait for that show. But like Candace and I always say, stay safe out there. We got your six. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed this show.
Suggestions and comments are always welcome.
Cannot wait to have another great show with y'all.
Don't forget you can find Homefront Sitrep on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Stay safe out there. I got your six.